Welcome to a wonderful book reading session, Inspiration, our night session. Let's start our fabulous book, The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. And let's start from where we stopped. And here we are. So, here we are reading about the seven beautiful things that we have been given, the seven principles that we can learn, imbibe in our life to become better versions of ourselves. So, number 5 is have faith and a burning desire. So, Napoleon Hill, who we know of Think and Grow Rich, he's amazing. He's written that, authored that beautiful book. And in that, he says, there's one quality which one must possess to win, and that is definiteness of purpose, the knowledge of what one wants, and a burning desire to possess it. Of the 500 most successful people who Hill interviewed in Think and Grow Rich, the number one commonality amongst them was faith along with the burning desire. Desire is what gets you up early and keeps you up late. It's what keeps you motivated to press forward when adversity hits. There are going to be all types of obstacles placed in front of you during your lifetime, and you can determine the size of a person by the size of the problem that keeps them down. Successful people look at a problem and see opportunity. Successful people look at a problem and see opportunity. You have to change your philosophy about problems because they're always going to be there. So, one thing we should all realize, we are human beings, we're spiritual beings, and if we are having a human experience, there are always going to be problems. But if there are problems, there will always be solutions also. So, what we have to generally change is our philosophy revolving around problems. Now, these so called problems, they're part of everyday life and they're not going away. You have to have a burning desire to get through, just like the slight edge reader, Aaron Grove. For as long as I remember, I wanted more in life. However, I grew up poor from humble beginnings. That is where my burning desire started. I'll never forget the day that the philosophy of the slight edge was introduced to me. Most vividly, I can recall reading this book every morning, starting right then to implement small activities. Daily, assured this would be the way over time to physical fitness, to eating right, building and maintaining relationships, building my business and finances, spiritual alignment, etc., etc., etc. I knew consistently showing up with a good attitude for a long period of time would get me to where I wanted to be. And then one day, presto, results were visible. Aaron had a burning desire to make the changes in his life. By implementing those small activities into his daily regimen, he got the results he needed. Just like Aaron, you have to show up consistently with a good attitude over a long period of time and a solid desire to change the trajectory of your life. So, once again, we want to make our lives better. We want to get inspired and sleep also. Great. We want to wake up to inspiration, read good things, be in good company, have some spiritual masters guiding us. But what is our real desire? These are things that everybody wants to become better at. Everybody wants to have some of these. But what makes you tick? What makes you excited? That is something we have to find. And if we can't find, it's all right. Then our next goal should be to increase the quality of life little better by better, whether we are working, whether we are living in our life, in our spiritual goals, in our emotional goals, materialistic goals. Work on getting a bit better every day. And one more thing that we've been taught in the 7 principles is to show up, to be consistent, to be disciplined. And now we've been taught to have faith and a burning desire. Now, next, number 6, be willing to pay the price. So, Vince Lombardi says, leaders aren't born, they are made. And they're made just like anything else through hard work. And that's the price we'll have to pay to achieve that goal or any goal. So, again, I'm going to remind you we have heard of many philosophies. One philosophy that we've heard is if you want to achieve something and be a master in something, you have to do that work for 10,000 hours. Now, these 10,000 hours will start from a scratch where you'll falter, you'll fail, you'll fall down, you'll rise up, you'll try something more, you'll again fall, again, you'll try something, again, you'll fall. You'll keep bettering yourself because 10,000 hours means from beginning until the time you become successful. There's one more philosophy that's being talked about every day these days, very often in news media and everywhere. But Narayan Murthy is saying that everybody should have a 70-hour week. And a lot of successful young entrepreneurs have seconded that. Of course, there will be people who will say, that, oh, but we get salary for 40 hours, but why should we work 70 hours? There are different paradigms. If we want to be successful in life, we have to be willing to give forward. I'm not saying that that means you ignore everything else in life, but Junoon is important. Anything worth having is worth working and paying a price for. That's a price of entry. And if you're not willing to pay a price for whatever it is you want, the price of neglect is far worse than the price of commitment. In chapter 10, we will get into this topic a little more in detail. But I would like to preface this principle here first. Years ago, it hit me that I didn't choose to do something to become successful. I was going to become unsuccessful for the rest of my life. Think about that. If you don't figure out something to be successful at, you have to be unsuccessful for it the rest of your life. Isn't that so true? This is where procrastination comes in. You've thought of something, you believe in it, but you keep pondering, अरे करके तो देखो, worst क्या हो जाओगे, fail हो जाओगे, but मन में ये तो नहीं है कि मैंने किया नहीं. Success पाने के लिए there has to be something called faith and there has to be something called conviction. Fears will keep coming. Fears will always pull you down. But but डर के आगे जीत है. We've heard that as well, right? So what's our philosophy? We have to create our own principles. In other words, the price of neglect is pretty brutal. The price of committing to something, showing up consistently with a good attitude over a period of time while having faith and a burning desire and being willing to pay the price is far easier than the true price of neglect. But there is a price that you're going to have to pay. I'd like to introduce you to Pablo Felix, who I think is one of the best examples I can find of someone who's willing to pay the price for what he wanted. Pablo had one slight disadvantage. He has been deaf since birth. Slight edge principles have been instrumental in both his business and personal life. Here is a story. Unfortunately, my parents did not realize that I was deaf until the age of 6. When I started preschool, I began learning American Sign Language upon entering school and spent many years trying to overcome my language delay. Because my family never learned sign language in order to communicate, I was always left out of family decisions. When a serious language, when a serious family situation came up, I was never even told what had happened. Time and time again, I was given little or no information necessary to make sense of the world because it took too long or was too difficult to attempt communication. As a result of being left out of my so many experiences, I developed a sense of not belonging even to my own family. Like most people my age, after college, I got married and started a family of my own. I dreamt of getting a good job and climbing the corporate ladder. I quickly found that corporate America held no place for a deaf person. I was regularly passed over for promotions and treated like a second class citizen. I was denied access to the very information needed to be an effective manager. For many years, I carried lingering resentments from the past. Even though my wife and children could hear, I found it difficult to overcome the disconnect I felt with mainstream society. I decided to start my own business in order to control my future. I decided I needed to learn from other successful people, so I interacted with people who could hear more than ever before in my life. After being told that reading was a critical aspect of my endeavor, I began my journey of personal development. I realized that my life was not on the path necessary of success. I was on a downward slope along the path of blame until I discovered the slight edge. I was able to change the negative compounded effects of years of unhappiness to a life of responsibility. My life became full of hope, excitement, and joy. Look at this shift. Look at this shift. करते भी हम हैं, upward भी हम जाते हैं, downward भी हम जाते हैं. If we keep believing in the slight edge, and if we keep showing up, and if we keep having belief, faith, and integrity and dedication, then life will soon start becoming hopeful. It will soon give us so much of joy, and we'll be excited for it. Anyways, I was able to finally release my resentments. I began setting goals for both my personal and professional life. I was able to attain many of professional goals and even outperform many of the people in my field. I now have had the pleasure of helping many more deaf people reach success. I teach them the importance of positive daily focus. We track our desires, goals, personal development, and accomplishments in notebooks titled, What Do You Want? The simple daily activity compounded over time has kept us on the positive upward path to success. I strive daily to become a better leader, father, and husband by applying slight edge principles to my life. Instead of whining about it and letting his employer continue to brand him as a problem rather than a solution, Pablo made the necessary changes in his life to find his calling by helping members of the deaf community find value and purpose. So, number 7 is about integrity, and let's read this entire diagram. Number 7 is integrity. You have to be willing to pay the price. That's number 6. You have to be wanting to plant, to cultivate, to harvest. अगर हम कोई idea plant करेंगे, उसको धीरे-धीरे work करेंगे by cultivating it, only then we will be able to reap the results. What you sow is what you reap, right? This is what we're talking about in number 5. Number 4, a desire to do something and the faith in that particular project. Number 3, come hail, sunshine, rain, we have to always have a good attitude, because good attitude will always succeed. Suppose the two people, we've read about this before, one is fabulous at his work, the other is close to fabulous, but the first has a nasty attitude, the second one has a good attitude. Even though he's not that exceptional at his work, but his attitude is great, he will be chosen. Number 2, to be disciplined, to be consistent, come what may, we've got to be disciplined. And number 1, showing up. This is where most people falter. अरे आज नहीं कल कर लेंगे, अरे आज थक गए हैं कल कर लेंगे. That's what we do. So even if we don't do it, show up. Like, I've taken it on me to read this book every day, come what may. So even if I'm not able to host a session, I said I will read 10 pages every single day. Whether there's a class or no class, I will read. So it's very important for us to do something for ourselves. And this journey, the night journey, is for our inner growth, to be inspired and do something, to learn, to practice. This book is not reading. This book is whatever we're reading every day, to break it down into to-do goals and to practice it and have a tracker for ourselves. Like Atomic Clear, if you read by James Clear, to have a tracker, to have accountability. If you have accountability, then that's what converts into success. So accountability for yourself is extremely important. Number 7, the most important principle, one of the most important of the 7 slight edge principles, is to practice slight edge integrity. Now, what's that? John D. MacDonald says, integrity is not a conditional word. It doesn't blow in the wind or change with the weather. There are many definitions of integrity, but the one most applicable to the slight edge is what you do when no one is watching. And that is what I call slight edge integrity. It is also doing the thing you said you were going to do long after the mood you said it has left you. जब दूसरे लोग हमें देख रहे होते हैं, तब तो हम बेस्ट वर्जन बन ही जाते हैं, because people are observing us. You're like, we've got to, we have got to lead by example. So, in order to show to the others, we do the best. But what about the times when nobody is watching us? In that time, for example, if you're on a diet, in that time you see that, oh, there's a truffle cake lying in your fridge, and you have a bite of it or like a tiny piece of it because nobody's watching. The entire family knows you're on a diet, but that one nicking away, and that is where you've lacked integrity because you don't trust and respect your body enough to not abuse the body by giving it sugar content, which is not required by the body. When nobody is watching, and then some people enjoy just picking up something from shops and nobody's watching. There are no cameras. Oh, let me flick it. It's very important to be careful of what we are doing when nobody is watching. Even the language that we talk to ourselves, talking in front of others about ourselves is great, but when we are alone, what are we talking to us? Now that is integrity. Let's understand this a bit more. Most kids, when they leave the comfort and structure of high school and home life, are rudderless, like fish out of water. They're not used to the freedom and responsibility placed on them once they are out on their own making decisions for themselves. Many fail to plan and prioritize their time and end up making poor decisions. The integrity is doing the little things every day has been compromised by the lure of freedom and being on their own. My daughter Amber didn't have the integrity when she was young because we were there to help her make those choices. But when she left the nest and went to school, 1,500 miles away, the responsibility fell to her. She would have to put into action the philosophies we taught her growing up. We were no longer there to help or look over the shoulder to make sure she was making correct decisions. The integrity clock for Amber was already in motion. Would she do these daily disciplines when no one was watching? Would she show up consistently and study 2 hours a day like she was taught? Thankfully, she did, and she was rewarded for it. She was willing to do the small little things, those daily tasks, that seemed insignificant to most people. Cobb knows slight edge integrity. Now, what's this? Let's understand. So, Kobe Bryant, if somebody knows about him, super famous, was part of the Lakers team. Let's understand what he said. As Dr. Jeff Olson says, as I've stated throughout the book, I'm a big sports fan because so much of life is woven throughout the tapestry of sports. Those in the Hall of Fame are individuals who didn't have to be prodded or told what to do to become successful. It was ingrained in them. Kobe Bryant is many sports writers' opinions have taken over the mantle as the best player in the game. LeBron James might have another opinion, but the facts are truly in Kobe's corner. Why? Sports Illustrated polled 190 NBA players and asked if they would have anyone in the NBA on their team for one game, who they would want to take the last shot with the game on the line. It wasn't even close. 76% voted for Kobe Bryant, 3% for Chauncey Billups, 3% for LeBron James, 3% for Paul Pierce, 2% for Dwayne Wade. What does this have to do with integrity? Not much. But it teaches a more important lesson. The poll is just the end result of Kobe Bryant's insatiable desire to become the greatest basketball player in the world. No one had to tell him as a young man he needed to spend hours outside of practice honing his craft. He did it on his own when no one was watching. For Kobe Bryant, taking the last shot when the game is on the line is second nature because he has practiced in so many times on the blacktop when no one was watching because he knew that that is what he needed to do to succeed. The only difference is he gets paid an insane amount of money to do it now. So, when people say, "Arey, they got lucky, oh, अरे इतना नाम और शोहरत मिल रहा है." See the time those people have invested in becoming who they have. Even startup companies which become unicorns have had the bija opened, the sowing of the seeds at some point of time and some intention and some creating of teams. And that's when now you can see that, oh, this has been bought and so much has been done. It's not that easy. It takes dedication, discipline, faith, showing up every day, desire, and integrity. Slight edge business integrity. The same can be said about those who venture into starting their own companies. Why is the failure rate so high for startups? Most everyone knows that lack of capital is by far the biggest reason companies don't make it past 2 years. But there's also an integrity component that is a cause for so many business failures. When you own a business, there is no one telling you that you need to be at work or shouting in your ear to make sales calls. No one is there to make it up to you do now. No one is there to make sure you're on top of your vendors and your books are up to date. That is up to you to do it. Not, and many business owners just don't have the slight edge integrity it takes to remain above water. They become intoxicated by the freedom of being their own boss and fail to maintain the kind of structure to become successful. Yet, there are many startups who do put into practice slight edge integrity and it takes to make. For example, Jerry T was highly ambitious 24-year-old gym owner, and for him, success couldn't come fast enough. It wasn't until he read Slight Edge that he realized the success would need to be slow and steady and consistent over time. He needed to take the inventory of what it would take to become successful and apply those steps consistently with or without anyone watching to make sure he did them. 2 years later, Jeremy's business quadrupled. I have opened 2 additional gyms, an online media company, and we are on track to quadruple our revenue once again. Since reading the Slight Edge, I'm no longer looking into the unknown, but instead looking to the present possibilities that are ingrained in my daily habits. The book gives me a paradigm shift. I have faith that my daily habits will lead to success or failure. The choice is mine. Pay attention to your daily habits and it will pay off. The Slight Edge gave Jeremy a structure, a foundation, a daily philosophy. He could implement that has brought him success, and you too can. Use Slight Edge integrity to improve your health, your relationships, your personal development. You name it, the sky is the limit. It just takes discipline, hard work, and a desire to change. Are you ready to do the little things when nobody's watching? There is a great quote that says, if you add a little to a little and do this often, soon the little will become great. Whether it was school, corporate America, or starting my own business. That quote has been the formula I have used my entire life to gain the slightest edge. Once we publish the Slight Edge, it has taken on a life of its own. The stories I have shared with you in this chapter and throughout the book are a testament that my philosophy works. George became a featherweight champion. My daughter Amber graduated top of a business class. Coach Stockton's baseball players were drafted into the major leagues. Pablo overcame his lack of hearing to becoming a valuable member of his community, and Jeremy has taken his gym to unprecedented heights. These are everyday people who, by implementing Slight Edge principles into their lives, have done many amazing things. Successful people do the little things that seem to make no difference at all when they are doing them. Doing them over and over again, consistently and persistently, with a good attitude over a long period of time, is what the Slight Edge is all about. Just as my daughter asked me how she could separate herself from the pack, you have the chance to do the same. And in doing so, not only will you change yourself, but you may also change the people around you. Key points of chapter 6. Over the years, I have isolated 7 actionable principles that can apply right now into life every day. That you can apply into your life right now every day. Showing up consistently with a good attitude over a long period of time. Having faith and a burning desire, be willing to pay the price and have the slight edge integrity and discipline to do things even when no one is looking. So Steve Fleming of Santa Fe in New Mexico says, by the age of 30 on paper, I was worth $1 million. I owned land, businesses, oil wells. I was even the president of the Chamber of Commerce, an upstanding citizen of the town. Life was good. In the next decade of the ripe age of 40, all that had changed. I found myself newly divorced, bankrupt, with 5 children to support. My self-esteem was in the toilet. A chance encounter with an old acquaintance changed everything. He had an opening in his company that he offered me, and just as important, he recommended some great books and resources I would start reading to get my psyche back on the right track. When I started the new job, we were discussing my salary. I told him I will work for free and you can tell me what I'm worth. I was a telemarketing making cold calls all day. My nights were spent on the floor of the office space I worked from as I couldn't afford my own place. Each day, I was the first to work and the last to leave. I would stay on the phone making hundreds of calls with every response imaginable, mostly not so favorable. I knew that I had within me the ability to turn my life around once again. For that to happen, I would require me each and every day to practice the principles of the slight edge. It would require that I set goals and do the daily practices that eventually not require that I set goals and do the daily disciplines that eventually, not miraculously, would lead me to the vision I was holding for my life. I mastered the mundane day in, day out. About 6 weeks into the job, I had zero sales, but I persevered, knowing that I was developing my skills as a telemarketer and that it would pay off. That day came when I was informed that one of the largest insurance companies purchased over 150 tickets for their agents and would be purchasing the same for another event we were promoting. At that time, it was the single largest sale ever made at this very well established company. I was eventually given the title of vice president and was made a 50% partner of the company. All of this transpired because I showed up consistently over a long period of time with a good attitude. I had a burning desire and faith and was willing to pay the price. And I was willing to do all this even when no one was watching. I'm now living out my dream and making a positive difference, sharing the profound but simple practices of the slight edge. Tomorrow we shall read about chapter number 7, Two Life Paths. Now it's time for us to be doing what we do every single day, and that is our lotus of gratitude. So once again, let's check our posture, close our eyes, be in alignment with the breath. Bring our both hands together like tiny buds. And the next 100 seconds, keep opening one finger as a petal and counting our blessings in the last 48 hours or 24 hours, whatever good has happened in your life. Thank you, life. Thank you, universe. Thank you to all the teachers, masters, gurus, mentors, angels, guardians, spirit guides, ancestors, loved ones in this realm or the other, in this dimension or the other, in this universe or the other, for always nudging us, nurturing us, protecting us, guiding us, and teaching us the values to becoming a better version of ourselves moment to moment. Thank you, thank you, thank you for the blessings. And you can expand your heart by feeling blessed beyond boundaries, beyond words can express. Feel the gratitude, feel the expansion of the heart, feel the expansion of the magnetic energy that you're throwing out. May all the abundance come to you so much and so much. May you always be a channel of sharing your love, light, and blessings with the world. And so it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining me in this beautiful night practice of reading a book to be inspired before we sleep. So now I'll say, Sleep tight and have a good night. Thank you so much.